You see, there's something quietly tragic about a person who thinks the only way to be good is to never upset anyone. Let's begin here. Imagine a beautiful garden, one with soft petals, gentle scents, and colors that soothe the eye. But around it, a wall, not a harsh wall, not spiked or jagged, just enough of a boundary to say, this is sacred space, tread mindfully. This is what we often forget, that kindness without boundaries becomes a sacrifice. A self-erasure, a slow vanishing of the very soul that's trying to love the world. You've been told to be nice, to forgive endlessly, to bend, to yield, and perhaps you've done it all worn that saintly smile while others walked over you, mistaking your warmth for weakness. But what if kindness wasn't about being agreeable? What if it was about being real? This isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about living fully and truthfully. If you've ever felt drained by your own decency, like you're giving so much but getting so little, then this message is for you. Stay with me, because by the end of this you will see how to live with an open heart and a spine of steel, how to be kind, but never a doormat. We've created this strange virtue in society, niceness. It's not the same as kindness. Niceness is often fear in disguise. It wants approval. It wants to avoid conflict. It doesn't say what it means. It smooths over the truth in favor of being liked. But kindness, real kindness, can be fierce. It can say no with grace. It can walk away with love. It doesn't need to be liked. It just needs to be true. If your kindness doesn't include yourself, it's incomplete. A person without boundaries is like a river with no banks. It floods, it erodes, it loses direction. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's how we teach the world how to treat us. You can be generous without being available 24/7. You can be loving without being a lifeline for everyone's emotional chaos. A kind heart with no boundary invites exploitation. A kind heart with clear boundaries becomes a lighthouse. What you tolerate teaches others what's acceptable. Every time you silence your truth just to keep the peace, you are at war with yourself. And here's the paradox: when you begin to respect yourself, you become more genuinely kind. Because now it flows from abundance, not exhaustion, from clarity, not confusion. Many of us were raised to please, to perform goodness, to win love through compliance, but love earned through obedience is not love, it's approval, and approval is conditional. You don't owe anyone your constant availability, your silence, or your peace of mind. People pleasing is a quiet betrayal of the self, and the cost is too high. Saying no is a complete sentence. It doesn't need a justification, but we often feel guilty because we confuse kindness with accommodation. No can be the most loving thing you ever say to yourself or to someone else. Say it gently, say it clearly, say it without flinching. It's how you reclaim your life. The world doesn't need more nice people. It needs true people, people rooted in themselves, grounded, whole, unshakably kind because they are unshakably themselves. So I invite you not to become harder, colder, or more guarded, but to become clearer, warmer, sharper, a soul with strong roots. Be kind, but do not disappear. Be generous, but do not overextend. Be love, but never lose yourself. Kindness is often misunderstood. We grow up thinking it means always saying yes, always smiling, always giving. But there is a quiet strength in kindness that isn't about being agreeable, it's about being conscious. Kindness, in its true form, is a choice rooted in clarity, not a reflex born of fear. It doesn't need to please everyone, and it doesn't need to be soft in every moment. A kind person isn't one who sacrifices themselves at the altar of someone else's comfort. A kind person is someone who holds themselves and others with presence, with awareness, and with respect. When we equate kindness with weakness, we miss the essence of it. Kindness isn't submission, it's sovereignty. It doesn't bend just to avoid tension. It knows when to be firm, when to walk away, when to hold the silence that says more than words ever could. It's not about being liked, it's about being real. Real kindness tells the truth. Real kindness has boundaries. Real kindness knows the difference between helping and enabling. And this is where power lies, not in domination or control, but in the steady, quiet knowing of who you are and what you will and won't accept. The world often teaches us that to be good we must be passive, but goodness without strength becomes martyrdom, and martyrdom is not love. True kindness stands tall. It doesn't shout, but it also doesn't shrink. It gives freely, but not endlessly. It knows that self-respect is not the opposite of kindness, it is the foundation of it. When you embody this truth, your kindness no longer drains you, it fills you. It becomes not something you do to be accepted, but something you are because you are already whole. Boundaries are not walls, they are definitions. They tell others where you end and where they begin. Without them, kindness becomes shapeless, vulnerable to distortion and depletion. Many people fear setting boundaries because they worry it will make them seem cold or selfish, but in reality, the absence of boundaries creates confusion, resentment, and eventually burnout. When you have no clear limits, your time, your energy, and your peace become an open invitation, and not everyone who accepts that invitation does so with care. Kindness without boundaries is like water with no container. It spills everywhere, it evaporates, and eventually there's nothing left to give. But when kindness is held by the gentle structure of self-respect, it becomes sustainable, it becomes focused. You can give more because you're not giving away pieces of yourself. You're offering from a place of wholeness. Boundaries don't shut people out. They allow for deeper connection because they invite respect. When someone knows where you stand, what's okay, and what's not, they can meet you in a space of truth rather than assumption. And if they can't, they were never really meeting you anyway, just the version of you who was willing to bend. It takes courage to say, "This is what I need," or "That doesn't work for me." But that courage protects the kindness inside you. It preserves your ability to show up again and again, not out of obligation, but out of choice. Boundaries are the quiet guardians of compassion. They allow you to love without losing yourself. They allow you to help without being hollowed out. They're not about keeping others away, they're about keeping yourself intact. Without them, even your best intentions become a sacrifice instead of a gift. Self-respect is the soil from which real kindness grows. Without it, every act of giving, every moment of compassion, risks becoming an unconscious negotiation, a trade for approval, love, or a sense of worth. But when you respect yourself, kindness becomes pure. It's no longer a strategy to be liked or a shield to avoid conflict. It's a reflection of the value you see in yourself and, by extension, in others. You begin to understand that being kind does not require you to shrink. You don't have to silence your truth just to maintain harmony. In fact, self-respect demands that you speak it not with aggression, but with grounded presence. It teaches others how to treat you, not through demands, but through consistency. When you stop abandoning yourself to meet other people's expectations, something shifts. You stop tolerating what drains you. You stop confusing self-sacrifice with love. Respecting yourself doesn't make you rigid, it makes you real. And when you are real, your kindness carries weight. It's not something others can manipulate or take for granted. It's not fragile or performative. It's deliberate, chosen, and powerful. People may push back when you begin to show this kind of strength. They may call it selfish, distant, or harsh, especially if they benefited from your lack of boundaries. But don't let that pull you back into self-betrayal. The kindness that flows from self-respect is quieter, steadier, and far more enduring than the kind that begs to be recognized. It doesn't seek applause. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply stands unshaken, available, generous because it comes from a place that doesn't need to be filled. When you respect yourself, your kindness becomes sacred. It becomes a gift that never asks to be repaid. Pleasing is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It disguises itself as kindness, but its root is fear, the fear of rejection, of conflict, of not being enough unless you're constantly proving your value to others. When you live in that pattern, you begin to shift. You adjust your words, your tone, even your truth, just to keep others comfortable. You say yes when every part of you means no. You smile through discomfort. You apologize for things that aren't your fault, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you disappear. What remains is a version of you that looks kind, but is quietly exhausted, resentful, and empty. People Pleasing doesn't come from love, it comes from a deep-seated belief that your worth is conditional, that if you're not agreeable, you'll be left behind, that if you assert your needs, you'll be seen as difficult or ungrateful. But here's the truth: real connection cannot exist where there is no authenticity. If people only like the version of you that pleases them, they don't truly know you. You become liked, yes, but at the cost of being seen. And what's the use of kindness that erases you? True kindness must include the courage to disappoint others, to speak up, to say no, to hold space for your own needs without guilt. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions, nor are you obligated to make yourself smaller so others can feel more comfortable. People pleasing is not generosity, it's survival, and it is not your final form. There's a deeper kind of love, one that begins within, one that doesn't require performance. When you begin to choose truth over approval, everything changes. Your energy returns, your voice returns. And the people who truly matter, they meet you there, not for what you do, but for who you are. There is a quiet, transformative power in the word no. Not the harsh, reactive kind, but the kind that comes from deep clarity, the kind that is soft but unwavering. Saying no doesn't make you unkind, it makes you conscious. It draws a line in the sand and says, "This is where I honor myself." But so many of us have been conditioned to believe that to be loving is to be endlessly available, that to be kind is to never reject, never refuse, never turn away, and so we stretch ourselves thin. We agree to things that drain us, we say yes when we want to rest, we engage when we need silence. And over time, kindness begins to feel like a burden instead of a gift. But the truth is, every genuine yes depends on your willingness to say no. Without that balance, kindness becomes compliance. It stops being a choice and starts becoming a habit, a reflex born from fear, not love. The art of saying no is the art of choosing wisely. It allows your time, your presence, and your energy to have weight. It makes your yes meaningful. You don't have to defend your no. You don't need to soften it with explanations or apologies. A clear, calm no is a complete sentence. It protects your peace. It teaches others how to treat you. And it keeps your kindness from being spread so thin that it ceases to nourish anyone, including you. Saying no doesn't mean closing your heart. It means protecting it. It means offering your attention and care not from exhaustion, but from wholeness. It's not a wall, it's a doorway to deeper, more honest connection. Because when you say no to what isn't right for you, you make space for what is. Living from the center means you no longer seek the world's permission to be who you are. There is a stillness inside you, a space untouched by opinions, demands, or expectations. Most people live from the outside in reacting to what others want, adjusting constantly, trying to keep the peace by losing themselves. But when you live from the center, you move differently. You respond, not react. You speak, not perform. Your kindness is no longer about being perceived a certain way. It's about expressing what's real. This kind of kindness is not fragile, it's rooted. It doesn't tremble when misunderstood. It doesn't shrink when challenged. It's like a tree with deep roots, flexible in the wind, but unshaken at its core. To live from this place requires honesty. It means you stop outsourcing your worth. You stop measuring your value by how comfortable you make others feel. You start listening not just to the noise outside, but to the truth that rises within when everything else is quiet. And from that space, kindness becomes a force of clarity. You give not to be seen as good, but because you are good without needing validation. You help not to be needed, but because it aligns with your nature. And you say no, not to reject others, but to remain whole. Living from the center doesn't mean isolating yourself from others. It means being so deeply connected to who you are that you no longer get lost in who you are not. And from that center, kindness flows like a river with direction, nourishing, strong, and unapologetically alive. So in the end, to be kind, but not a dorm. It is not a balancing act, it's a return to truth. It's the recognition that real kindness is not about being agreeable, passive, or endlessly available. It's about being awake, awake to your needs, Awake to your boundaries. Awake to the difference between love and approval. You are not here to be consumed. You are not here to be convenient. You are here to be whole. Let your kindness be anchored in self-respect. Let it come from fullness, not fear. Speak with softness, but stand with strength. Because the world doesn't need another person who disappears to keep the peace. It needs someone who can love without losing themselves. And that someone is you.